There is such a country with a population of less than 1,000 and an area of only 0.44 square kilometers. However, it controls a global population of 1.36 billion. This country has neither industry nor agriculture, yet its per capita GDP reaches an astonishing $21,000, ranking 18th in global prosperity. What's even more remarkable is that its military consists of fewer than 240 people, but it effortlessly dismantles other countries' political regimes, influencing world affairs. Legend has it that it played a significant role in the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The name of this country is the Vatican. This tiny city-state has a unique charm and influence. Today, let's delve into the story of the Vatican. If this is your first time tuning into our channel, the primary focus here is to provide critical perspectives on historical or societal controversial events, offering insightful descriptions and commentary. If you're interested, please consider subscribing to our channel and turning on the notification bell. Let's get started. The full name of Vatican City is the Vatican City-State. It is located on a highland in the northwest corner of Rome, Italy. It is the smallest country in the world in terms of land area, and one of the only two remaining countries globally where the state and religion are combined, the other being Iran. I once saw a joke on Facebook and YouTube claiming that Chinese nationality is the most difficult to obtain in the world. I guess the person who wrote this joke forgot about Vatican City being a country. The citizenship recognition in most countries is generally based on jus sanguinis or jus soli. From this perspective, China's nationality laws are relatively standard. However, Vatican City is different. It does not consider whether you were born within its borders or have mainstream nationality. Instead, it looks at whether you hold a position of a certain rank within the Roman Curia, such as high-ranking clergy or members of the Swiss Guard responsible for the Pope's security. Statistics show that Vatican City currently has a population of just over 800, with only around 450 holding Vatican citizenship. Moreover, this citizenship is not permanent. Once retired or unemployed, Vatican passports and citizenship are revoked, and individuals revert to their original nationality. Some may wonder what happens if they hold only Vatican citizenship and lose it, making them stateless. To address this, Vatican City and Italy have signed a treaty. If any Vatican citizen loses their citizenship and does not hold nationality elsewhere, they automatically acquire Italian citizenship. Therefore, rather than considering the Vatican passport as an identity document, it is more accurate to view it as a work permit. We just mentioned that Vatican City is a country where the state and religion are combined. In the eyes of many Westerners, the Vatican represents the central governing body of the entire Roman Catholic Church, known as the Holy See. Vatican City, as a secular political entity, is the Holy See's sole territory, and the Holy See is the spiritual center for nearly 1.4 billion Catholics worldwide. To draw a possibly imperfect analogy, Vatican City as a country is like the physical body of the Holy See, equivalent to the outer shell, while the Holy See is the legal body, akin to the core. Christianity is divided into three major branches: Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and Protestantism. In the 11th century, Christianity, as the state religion of Rome, experienced a significant split, dividing into Catholicism, led by the Pope, and Greek Orthodoxy, led by the Bishop of Constantinople. During the 16th century religious reform movement, Protestantism emerged as a separate branch from Catholicism. Catholicism is the oldest of the three major branches and has the most distinct hierarchical structure. The Pope, also known as the Pontiff, is the spiritual leader of all Catholics worldwide and serves as the head of state for Vatican City. The complete title of the Pope is quite lengthy, reflecting the importance and dignity of the papal office. According to Catholic rules, the Pope holds a lifetime position, not subject to removal, and serves until death or voluntary resignation. However, a Pope can choose to resign, a rarity in the history of the Catholic Church. When Pope Benedict IX resigned in 2013, it shocked the world. Upon the death or resignation of a pope, a new pope is elected from among the more than 100 cardinal bishops worldwide. All cardinal bishops gather in the Sistine Chapel in Vatican City for a closed-door election. During the election, the cardinal bishops cannot have any contact with the outside world, and the process can last from a few hours to several weeks or even months. Multiple rounds of voting may take place, and a candidate must receive a two-thirds majority to be elected. If no one achieves this after 34 rounds, a simple majority or a runoff between the top two candidates may be used to expedite the election. During this time, hundreds or thousands of reporters camp outside the Sistine Chapel, watching the smoke from the chimney. Black smoke indicates no decision that day, while white smoke signals a successful election. The elected pope dons a white robe and appears on the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, where a cardinal announces to the crowd, "Habemus Papam," meaning we have a pope. Below the Pope in the ecclesiastical hierarchy are cardinal bishops, also known as cardinals. Cardinals are appointed by the Pope and receive red robes and hats upon appointment, hence the name cardinal bishops. Below them are archbishops, commonly dressed in purple, and further down are bishops, typically in black attire. As the highest political leader of a sovereign state, the Pope governs a few hundred citizens, but the power of faith should not be underestimated. When mentioning Vatican City, some netizens once joked about how much impact 800 people could have. Let's discuss the extent of this influence. In 2014, Forbes released its list of the world's most influential people, and the current Pope, Pope Francis, ranked fourth. The three people ranked higher than him were the leaders of Russia, the United States, and China. By 2018, there were slight changes in the rankings, but Pope Francis still held the sixth position. For military enthusiasts, there is an interesting anecdote. In late November 1943, during the height of World War II, the three Allied leaders, President Roosevelt of the United States, Prime Minister Churchill of the United Kingdom, and General Secretary Stalin of the Soviet Union gathered in Tehran, Iran, to discuss how to deliver a decisive blow to Nazi Germany. During the meeting, Prime Minister Churchill mentioned Pope Pius VII and his anti-communist stance and pro-German attitude. Pope Pius VII had served as the Vatican's ambassador to Nazi Germany, having special sentiments towards Germany and being a loyal supporter of the Axis powers. Throughout World War II, Pope Pius VII remained silent about the atrocities committed by the Nazi fascists in various countries. Churchill cautioned everyone to be wary of the global influence of the Catholic Church and its followers. Stalin, waving his pipe, sarcastically remarked, "The Pope. Let him send a few divisions." If Stalin had known in advance what would happen several decades later, he probably wouldn't have been so amused. The seemingly unarmed Pope, with just a few masses, accelerated the disintegration of the Soviet Union. In 1989, after the Polish Communist Party, the United Workers' Party, was defeated by the Solidarity Labour Union in elections, the red political power in Poland crumbled. This triggered a domino effect in Eastern Europe, leading to the collapse of communist regimes in various countries. Just 2 years later, the Soviet Union rapidly headed towards dissolution. The deep-seated reasons behind the profound changes in Poland are complex, but a significant figure pushing for change was Pope John Paul II. John Paul II, a Pole, was elected as the 264th Pope in 1978. He was the first non-Italian Pope in over 400 years, since the death of Pope Adrian VI in 1522. Catholicism is the state religion of Poland, with over 80% of Poles being Catholics. When the news of John Paul II's election reached Poland, people were excitedly spreading the word. However, the first secretary of the ruling Polish United Workers' Party, Edward Gierek, was not pleased because John Paul II was the most anti-communist pope since Pius VII. The Soviet Union, Poland's big brother, was also uneasy. When John Paul II expressed his desire to visit his homeland, the then Soviet leader Brezhnev was the first to oppose it. He sternly warned Gierek to make sure this guy is kept outside Poland's borders. However, Gierek knew his influence was nowhere near that of the Pope, and he didn't dare to be too forceful. Therefore, he adopted a delaying tactic, thinking that as long as he didn't send an invitation, the Pope wouldn't come on his own. However, John Paul II did indeed come uninvited. He contacted the Polish Cardinal Wyszynski, who, on behalf of all Polish bishops, invited him to visit Poland. John Paul II successfully obtained a Polish visa. In June 1979, John Paul II arrived in Poland, and as soon as he stepped off the plane, he knelt down and kissed the ground. Tens of millions of Poles witnessed this symbolic gesture on television. This emotional act immediately ignited the passion of the Polish people. They shouted, "We are finally noticed by the world, and we are chosen by God." In the central square of the Polish capital, Victory Square, John Paul II celebrated a large mass. Millions of excited Poles flocked to the square. Under the huge cross-shaped altar, John Paul II sincerely said, "Come, Holy Spirit, and renew this land." This sentence, in the following decades, invisibly influenced the historical trajectory of Eastern Europe. In August 1980, over 16,000 workers at the Gdansk shipyard in Poland went on strike to protest the government's significant price increases. Strike leader Lech Wieser established the Solidarity Trade Union to confront the government. When creating Solidarity, Wieser emphasized that he was inspired by the Pope, stating that if the union could be born and recognized in Poland, his first long journey would be to Rome to meet the Pope. In January 1981, Wieser indeed went to Rome and received a warm reception from Pope John Paul II. Pope John Paul II, who had previously declined meetings with many political leaders and royalty, warmly embraced Wieser in front of the media. This endorsement significantly contributed to the exponential growth of the Solidarity Union. In late 1981, to suppress the growing solidarity movement and control worker strikes, Polish leader Wojciech Jaruzelski declared martial law nationwide, arresting some radical Solidarity members, including Wisa, who was placed under house arrest. During this period, intense conflicts erupted between the military and workers, resulting in several bloody incidents. At a critical moment, Pope John Paul II decided to visit Poland again. To hinder the Pope's visit, the Polish government even spread rumors that there were hundreds of terrorist organizations in Poland with illegal weapons and ammunition that could harm the Pope. However, Pope John Paul II was undeterred. In June 1983, he visited Poland for the third time, directly rebuffing the Polish government's attacks on solidarity and expressing his desire for the union to be legalized. The Polish people were ecstatic. By this time, the number of Solidarity Union members far exceeded the number of Communist Party members in Poland. The Polish United Workers' Party lost its influence at the grassroots level. In June 1987, Pope John Paul II made his third forceful visit to Poland. The prestige of the Polish Red regime hit rock bottom. Ultimately, in the 1989 Polish parliamentary elections, Solidarity won and took the stage of governance. Poland transitioned from the People's Republic of Poland back to the Republic of Poland, implementing parliamentary democracy. Wisa was elected president. Soon after, a chain reaction occurred throughout Eastern Europe and even the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union dissolved, and the Cold War ended with the victory of the American camp. The reason why the Solidarity Union could stir up the situation in the 1980s and ultimately ignite the massive changes in Poland was because it was not a one-man battle. In 1992, Time magazine published a cover story titled The Holy Alliance, detailing how former US President Ronald Reagan and Pope John Paul II collaborated to secretly support and manipulate solidarity activities in Poland. In the early 1980s, Reagan and the Pope had a secret meeting in the Vatican Library, discussing how to pull Poland away from the Soviet orbit. They agreed that as long as they preserved the Solidarity organization, there would be a chance to shake the socialist regime in Poland. Over the next decade, Solidarity received various forms of support from the Reagan and Pope alliance. Tons of equipment, including fax machines, printing presses, phones, cameras, and computers, were funneled into Poland through channels established by the Catholic Church and American agents. The Vatican and the US also conveyed strategic guidance to Solidarity leaders through clergy members. The Holy Alliance demonstrated that spiritual authority could, without deploying military forces, undermine a country's socialist rule. The influence of the Vatican extended far beyond this. Faith not only has the power to influence world affairs, but also can be used to make money. The Vatican, in history, has also been a political power with vast territories. Its predecessor was known as the Papal States, with origins tracing back to the 8th century. In the 740s of the 8th century, Pepin, the mayor of the Frankish kingdom, held real power in the dynasty, with King Hilderic III being a mere puppet ruler. Pepin aimed to go a step further and take the throne himself, but needed a legitimate pretext. Coincidentally, at that time, the Lombards were wreaking havoc in the Italian peninsula, posing a threat even to the Pope. Pepin seized the opportunity to show goodwill to the Pope, asking for advice on what to do when the king neglects his duties. The Pope thought for a moment and replied, "Whoever toils for the Franks is their master." This answer aligned perfectly with Pepin's intentions. In 751 AD, with the support of the Pope, Pepin usurped the throne and established the Carolingian dynasty. To express gratitude for the Church's assistance, Pepin launched 2 military campaigns into Italy, offering a portion of the conquered territories, including the areas around Rome, to the Pope. This event, known as the Donation of Pepin, laid the territorial foundation for the Papal States. In 754 AD, a theocratic state with Rome as its capital was established, succeeding the Papal States. Subsequently, surrounding major powers offered land to the Papal States in exchange for the religious and moral support of the Pope. The territory of the Papal States gradually expanded, reaching its zenith with control over the central part of the Italian peninsula and large portions of the north, totaling approximately 100,000 square kilometers. In medieval Europe, the authority of the Pope surpassed that of various kings, often positioning himself as the earthly representative of God. The Papal States became one of the most significant political forces in the Italian peninsula. However, having land was not enough. Governing a country also required finances. So, the Pope also dabbled in economics. Unfortunately, after hundreds of years, a functional industry like other states did not develop. But no worries, we have spiritual wealth. As long as we can connect secular material and spiritual wealth, the influx of gold coins into the Papal States will be endless. In the 11th century, Pope Urban II invented indulgences, claiming that believers could use money to reduce the sins they committed. According to the theoretical innovation made by the Roman Curia, the merits of Jesus Christ, the Virgin Mary, and the saints had far exceeded the number of souls they saved. The surplus merits were stored in a huge treasury in heaven. The Pope could withdraw some of these merits and transfer them to virtuous men and women in the world. The way to obtain these merits was by purchasing indulgences. In the 14th century, Pope Benedict VII even openly established a price list for indulgences. The more money paid, the greater the sins that could be forgiven. For example, to absolve the sin of adultery in the church, 6 gold coins were required, while the redemption for murder required 8 gold coins. By the 15th century, things became even more outrageous. Pope Sixtus IV, in 1476, issued a bull that included the salvation of souls in purgatory through indulgences as part of the creed. In Catholic doctrine, purgatory is a place between heaven and hell. Souls that are pure and spotless can ascend to heaven after death, while those who committed unforgivable mortal sins go to hell. Those who committed lesser sins undergo temporary punishment in purgatory. After purifying their souls, they can ascend to heaven. Pope Sixtus IV's bull effectively told people that as long as they purchased indulgences, they need not worry about not getting to heaven. The wealthy could simply throw gold coins into the Pope's pocket and indulge in any misconduct they desired. For the Church, indulgences were indeed a lucrative business. Whenever the Church faced financial difficulties, indulgences became a crucial means of collecting money. The most sacred place in Catholicism, the famous St. Peter's Basilica, was rebuilt with the money from selling indulgences. Indulgences also provided a carefree life for successive popes. However, the good times did not last. In the 16th and 17th centuries, the Protestant Reformation challenged and questioned the spiritual authority of the Roman Curia. The Papal States also rapidly declined. In the 18th century, the Southern French Revolution completely ended the Roman Curia's reign, putting an end to the days of extravagance. In 1791, the Papal States, located outside the Italian peninsula, were entirely annexed by the French forces led by Napoleon. By 1796, Napoleon invaded Italy, and within 2 years, Rome fell, leading to the downfall of the Papal States. Pope Pius VI, the reigning pope at the time, was captured, but due to the deep-rooted influence of the Catholic Church, Napoleon treated him with respect, escorting Pius VI back to France for retirement. In 1800, Napoleon, recognizing the enduring appeal of the Roman Curia in Europe, ordered the restoration of the Papal States. Pope Pius VII, the successor, was escorted back to Rome. However, by this time, the prestige of the papacy had significantly diminished. In 1804, when Napoleon proclaimed himself emperor, he audaciously commanded Pope Pius VII to personally crown him in Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, rather than making the journey to Rome. In a bizarre twist, during the coronation, Napoleon refused to kneel before the Pope. He preemptively took the crown from the Pope and placed it on his own head, leaving Pius VII feeling deeply humiliated. 4 years later, in 1808, conflicts arose between Pope Pius VII and Napoleon over the latter's war policies. French forces once again occupied the Papal States. Perhaps due to the inevitable course of events, in 1815, after Napoleon's defeat and the convening of the Congress of Vienna by the anti-French alliance, the Papal States were re-established. However, the territories had significantly diminished. By 1870, the Italian kingdom completely annexed the Papal States' territories. Facing the advancing Italian army, Pope Pius IX fled into the Vatican City within Rome and humorously referred to himself as a prisoner of the Vatican. The Italian government, realizing that they had gained control over the territories and wealth of the Papal States, chose not to eliminate the Pope. In a peculiar arrangement, the Italian government acknowledged the sacred inviolability of the Pope and prohibited any attacks on the Vatican City. However, Pope Pius IX remained unwilling to accept the demise of the Papal States, refused to reconcile with the Italian government, and did not acknowledge the sovereignty of the Italian kingdom over Rome. This standoff persisted until 1929. Despite the Papal States being virtually extinct by then, the sovereignty of the Holy See endured. The Lateran Treaty, signed in 1929, recognized Italy's unification and Rome as its capital, while acknowledging the sovereignty of the Holy See over the Vatican City's 44 hectares. Thus, the Papal States officially ceased to exist on February 11, 1929, replaced by the Vatican City. In the following decades, the Vatican City formed deep ties with Fascist Italy and Nazi Germany. In the early 1930s, the Holy See signed a concordat with the Hitler government, granting significant religious freedom to Catholics in Germany and allowing the collection of church taxes. The Nazi regime even directly transferred a portion of the wages of German Catholics to the Vatican as taxes. Additionally, before the outbreak of World War II, the Vatican had already invested in military, trade, and financial companies within Germany and Italy. In 1935, when Mussolini established the Royal Banana Monopoly Company in the colony of Mogadishu to control the entire African banana trade, he issued gold and silver authorizations to dozens of middlemen carefully selected by Fascist Italy and the Vatican. As capital continuously flowed into the Vatican, a new problem arose. The Vatican's money was stored in banks in other countries, meaning it could be traced or even frozen at any time. On June 27, 1942, the Vatican Bank, also known as the Institute for Religious Works (IOR), was established. It was a private bank, not open to the public, solely responsible for managing the Vatican's financial assets. It could conduct business globally without taxation or disclosure of any operational information, destroying all documents every 10 years. The sole shareholder was the Pope. The Vatican Bank became a haven for European wealthy individuals, as information couldn't be traced. It was referred to as a sacred place for money laundering and hoarding. A famous case from the 1980s, God's banker's death, is intricately linked to the Vatican Bank. On June 18, 1982, a London postman passing through Blackfriars Bridge was stunned to witness a man hanging on the iron frame. The man was Roberto Calvi, the chairman of Banco Ambrosiano, Italy's largest private bank at the time. Calvi was known as God's banker due to his close ties with the Vatican Bank. Born in 1920 to an ordinary middle-class family in Milan, Calvi demonstrated strong business talent from a young age. In the 1950s, he unexpectedly met Sicilian businessman Sindona, who was a financial advisor to the Vatican Bank and a member of the Masons. Sindona had also provided financial services to the Gambino crime family. Under Sindona's operation, global giants in industries such as food, finance, media, energy, textiles, steel, and tourism received investments from the Vatican. The flow of wealth made Sindona immensely successful, and the media praised him lavishly. Calvi, already in the management of Ambrosiano, desired modernization but faced resistance from conservative directors. Calvi straightforwardly expressed his ideas to Sindona, stating that Ambrosiano's asset allocation was too conservative, and he wanted to work with Sindona to use Ambrosiano's substantial funds for more aggressive investments. Sindona, impressed by Calvi's talent, began teaching him how to establish and operate offshore companies and introduced him to crucial connections. One such connection was the wealthy businessman Licio Gelli, a member of the P2 Masonic Lodge. Through Gelli, Calvi joined the Masons. Another crucial connection was Marcinkus, the president of the Vatican Bank, who not only managed all affairs of the Vatican Bank, but also served as an archbishop and acted as a bodyguard for Pope Paul VI. Through Marcinkus, Calvi established a connection with the Holy See. Under Sindona and Marcinkus's operation, Calvi was promoted to the general manager of Ambrosiano in 1971, and later appointed as the chairman in 1975. Ambrosiano transformed into an international commercial and financial institution. Calvi, through a network of shell companies established in tax havens like Luxembourg, Panama, Costa Rica, etc., concealed Ambrosiano's assets and masked the financial dealings between Ambrosiano and the Vatican Bank. Calvi used back-to-back operations to transfer Ambrosiano's funds to the Vatican Bank, and the Vatican Bank would further transfer them to offshore shell companies owned by Calvi and Sindona. In return, the Vatican Bank received a commission from the transferred funds. The funds could be used directly when needed. Later, Sindona bought controlling shares of Franklin National Bank, the 12th largest bank in the United States, for $40 million. The Vatican Bank, through multiple shell companies, held shares in Ambrosiano and Franklin National Bank. Marcinko, Sindona, and Calvi formed a triangle of interests. Legal and illegal incomes from the Holy See, the Masons, and the Mafia circulated around this triangle. These funds were whitewashed in the name of God and safely managed by agencies in Italy. However, their activities eventually attracted scrutiny and legal consequences. In the late 1970s, various radical investments by Sindona and Calvi consecutively led to failures. After the bankruptcy of Franklin National Bank, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission charged Sindona with fraud. The Milan prosecutor issued an arrest warrant for Sindona on charges of falsifying accounts and fraud. Similarly, as Ambrosiano faced financial difficulties, Calvi was accused by Italian authorities of violating foreign exchange controls and illegally transferring billions of Italian lira abroad. With no way out, Sindona and Calvi sought help from Marcinkus and the Pope. Calvi even wrote a letter to Pope John Paul II, stating that half of the massive debt burdened by Ambrosiano had guarantees from the Vatican Bank. Essentially, Calvi hinted that if he were to fall, he might reveal all their previous dealings. Calvi also sought help from Gelli, the head of the Propaganda Due branch of the Masonic Lodge. However, the Vatican and the Masons were not easily threatened. The situation spiraled out of control. The prosecutor investigating the Calvi case was shot dead in the streets of Milan. Subsequently, individuals involved in the bank liquidation related to the case faced unfortunate fates, including lawyer Giorgio Ambrosoli, who investigated money laundering activities of the Propaganda Due branch, military personnel Antonio Varisco, investigator Giuliano, and Giuliano's successor, Basel. In May 1981, Calvi was arrested in his Milan apartment and later released on bail while awaiting trial. By June 1982, exhausted both mentally and physically, Calvi repeatedly told his family that he was tired and had had enough. He expressed willingness to reveal everything if necessary. However, in June 1982, Calvi was found hanging from a bridge in London. In 1986, Sindona, who was serving a prison sentence, was poisoned after drinking a cup of coffee and died. Importantly, no one involved in these events was convicted because of these deaths. After the Vatican Bank financial scandal erupted, Marcinkus was suspended and forced into retirement in Arizona, USA. He was never charged with any financial crimes and lived until the age of 84. Initially, the London court considered Calvi's death as suicide. However, upon appeals from Calvi's family, in 2005, 5 suspects, including Gelli, head of the Propaganda Due branch, were charged in the Calvi case. Several mafia members were also among the accused. However, on November 18, 2011, this century-long trial concluded with all suspects being acquitted. There are many details to delve into regarding this case, which could be explored in a separate episode. Entering the 21st century, financial regulatory systems worldwide have become more sophisticated. Today, the Vatican's main sources of income are tourism, real estate, finance, and donations from its 1.4 billion followers. The Vatican is the only country globally whose entire territory is designated a World Heritage Site. St. Peter's Basilica houses artistic treasures designed and built by masters such as Raphael, Michelangelo, and Antonio. The Vatican possesses over 5,100 properties globally, with 4,051 in Italy alone. The remaining 1,120 are in upscale areas of cities like London, Geneva, Lausanne, Paris, excluding the embassies established by the Vatican worldwide. Additionally, global believers' annual donations constitute a significant source of income. In the Middle Ages, an unwritten rule circulated within the Catholic Church, stating that believers should contribute 1% of their income to the Church, known as the tithe. Today, with 1.4 billion Catholics globally, even if each person donates only $1, it amounts to a substantial income. According to Forbes 2020 data, the U.S. Catholic Church alone received $1.4 billion in donations that year. Pope Francis, who took office in 2013, focused on repairing the Church's reputation and achieved noticeable results. He initiated extensive reforms in the Vatican Bank, replacing 4 out of 5 board members overseeing its operations. Upon learning that a bishop in Germany spent $43 million on renovating a house and church, Pope Francis promptly suspended him. He frequently criticized believers and clergy for their materialistic behavior, stating that one cannot serve 2 masters. If one serves money, they cannot serve God. He also mentioned that if a church places its hope in wealth, Jesus will not be present there. Furthermore, the Catholic Church has consistently opposed homosexuality, considering same-sex relationships as deviant behavior in Catholic doctrine. However, since Pope Francis took office, he has maintained a tolerant attitude towards homosexuality and the LGBT community. He stated that if a person is homosexual and seeks God with good intentions, who is he to judge them? These individuals should not be marginalized. They must integrate into society. In 2019, Pope Francis announced that the pontifical secrecy provision would no longer apply to cases of sexual abuse involving minors. This means that if any clergy member is involved in such cases, national judicial authorities have the right to access internal church documents. The issue of sexual abuse has deep-rooted itself within the church for nearly a century. Previously, countless problematic clergy members escaped legal sanctions under the protection of Popes Paul II and Benedict XVI, using the pontifical secrecy provision. Pope Francis's actions undoubtedly brought relief. His warm, approachable demeanor and down-to-earth attitude have won him the affection of numerous Catholic believers and even the general public. In 2013, Time magazine selected Pope Francis as the Person of the Year, and the media often refers to him as the People's Pope. Regarding the Vatican, there are many unknown secrets, such as the Vatican's secret archives located on the north side of the Sistine Chapel. It contains documents from various countries dating from the 8th century to the present day. If the materials on the shelves were lined up, they could stretch up to 85 kilometers. These documents belong exclusively to the Pope, and access is strictly prohibited to the public. Only a select few individuals, rigorously screened, have the privilege to enter the secret archives and review its contents. Legend has it that the archive contains records of ancient mysteries. That's all for today. If you want to continue supporting this channel, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell to ensure you don't miss any episodes. Lastly, if being radical is the new norm and objectivity is considered heretical, perhaps we should be radically objective. Until next time, stay curious and stay unconventional.